Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Defense Scope. In the last episode, I spoke to Pakistani journalist Wajahat Khan to know more about what is really happening in Pakistan. That was a Pakistani perspective. Wajahat is someone who is very close to the Pakistani establishment. But remember that there is also a fallout of what is happening in Pakistan as far as India is concerned. Of course, there is a fallout on the AFPAK region, but we are more concerned about what is happening in India. And for that, to discuss this particular issue, I have with me Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma. He retired as the Adjutant General of the Indian Army. He is currently a distinguished fellow at the VIF, that is the Vivekananda International Foundation. Welcome to the print, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Snehesh. Thank you for inviting me.
So there's a lot happening in Pakistan right now. There was a standoff that literally took place between Imran Khan and the army. Initially, we all thought that Imran Khan is going to win, but now it seems that the Pakistan army has really cracked down. From your perspective, how do you see the situation turning out in Pakistan, sir?
So interesting, what's happening is actually theater of the absurd. And, people say that there are parallels earlier in history in Pakistan, but I would say what has happened on 9th of May is a first in many ways. And to see the violation of GHQ and violation of the co-commander's house as also the Lahore cantonment, plus many other things are very important issues, exceedingly important issues in the history of Pakistan. More so, I think, the strength of Pakistan army rests in Punjab province. The army hails for Punjab, the Pothohar plateau, as we used to say earlier, and largely for Punjab province. So the writing that takes place between Islamabad up to Lahore, in the Punjab itself actually irks and pains the Pakistan army the maximum, because they are the constituency. 62% of Punjab, Pakistan is Punjab. Now, what happens to the anguish of the people in Punjab? Does it carry forward to Balochistan, which is already having a problem for a long time? Does it carry forward to Sindh, even southern Punjab? In southern Punjab, the areas of Sariki regions, south of Multan, or even KPK. So if they do not go ahead and control what has happened and show their power, then they will be a spread across there. And also the politicians, it's a hybrid democracy. If they do not sort out Imran Khan and PTI now, lo and behold, there'll be other politicians who will raise their head. So all known means of getting back the control and show that Pakistan army is the one which remains in control are essential for the Pakistan army today. And that measures are what are being tried out now by putting thousands in jails, by splitting PTI into pieces, getting some people to resign from PTI and go away, and causing a threat across here. Imran Khan's tone and tenor has changed. He's mellowed down quite a bit in his interview with Al Jazeera. So all this is the kind that they've certainly woken up. We can't allow this to happen. This is our country. Politicians come and go. It's Pakistan Army's country. They cannot allow anybody else to start thinking that they are at helm of affairs. So they have to get on, and they have pulled up their socks and got on into this business in serious ways to get back into control in the country.
So, that's interesting that you mentioned, the fact that it seems that the Pakistan army was clearly taken aback by the sudden turn of events. They didn't expect this much, because at the end of the day, we all say that every country has an army, but it's only the Pakistan army which has a country of its own. Right. But what are the ramifications as far as India is concerned? Pakistan army is the one that is always in control. What are the ramifications, immediate ramifications as far as India is concerned, sir?
So I think we need not get so excited about what's happening into Punjab, except that it's a Western neighbor and it's an inimical designs. We have a disputed border for a very long region, and we have the problematic relationships over 7 decades. We have no ambassador, high commissioner there. We have no trade with nothing at all. So there is actually today standing, we have nothing as a word relationship between neighbors would go. So that's one part of the story. Other part is that we know that there is a issue of Pakistan army getting control of their nation, and they will try each and every method possible to convince their public. See, 71% of the local people in the poll carried out still support PTI. So if the elections are to take place tomorrow, there may be a possibility of Imran Khan or PTI, somebody coming into helm affair. Again, that is not acceptable to them. So they have to sort out, taken every measure possible to make sure that the government that comes into chair is their controlled government. This is what's been happening for long. One of the methods of doing this is also the basic binding factor in Pakistan, the identity.
Exactly.
The identity of Pakistan also rests with anti-Indianism and Jammu and Kashmir issue. So if there is something, and Pakistan's army has been a respected institution in Pakistan only for the reasons because it's been in continuous combat either on the Western Front or on the Eastern Front. So to raise the hackles and get the motivation going and the nationalism going and the patriotism going in the country, it may be necessary for them to change narrative, among other issues also towards India. So what gets cautioned to us is that while they will be doing other things to sort out PTI and Imran Khan and getting everything in control, they may raise this bogey of India in any which way, which will make sure that the nationalism rises and people say, look, the army is doing this, but they are also combating on the borders and they have problems across there. So we have to be cautious that we may come into this basket of things taken out by the Pakistan army, and we may be one of these issues involved here.
So what do you think that the Pakistan army would do? In the sense, would they do something of their own, or would they use their proxies here in India? And I mean by proxies, I mean the terrorist groups in Jammu and Kashmir.
So it's my opinion that they are not ready for a war. They, their economic condition is way down. Their political situation is awful. They don't have many friends left in the international arena. Even Chinese, Chin gang came and told them, wake up your ideas and sort out your politics. Imagine. Yeah. Chinese who never say this, he went there and said in presence of Bilawal Bhutto. So all things are going against them to get into a proper conflagration with India. So what will you do? Imagine the Fauj Chaudhary who you saw running yesterday from the court case, an interesting gentleman. He had said in the parliament in Sulap and said, look, humne Pulwama kiya hai. We did Pulwama. He made a noise about this. And, he owned up. I mean, we didn't have to tell him to own it up. He said, we did Pulwama. Hum country mein ghus ke marenge type. They know that we have a government, we have elections around the corner, we have a strong government who wants to respond to issues. So if there is another Pulwama or another issue which happens across there, and we may be forced to act offensively in whichever manner, I'm not saying surgical strike or Balakot, or we have a quiver of arrows which we can try out. But if some things happen here in India which are ascribed to Pakistan, then there will obviously be a retaliation, and the retaliation will lead to Pakistan finding the Pakistan establishment, which is the army. And I don't like the word deep state. They're no more deep. They're absolutely in the open. So they will tell the public, look, you leave all this alone. We have a fight going on across here, and let's sort out India, because India has got anguish. They had. So, firstly, establish a narrative, then do a action, which could be, ceasefire, breaking on the line of control, is one of these ways of doing things. So any one of these methods that they would try would add on to the value of the Pakistani establishment within their own country. So it's a very important phase that is going through there.
Okay. For the viewers, as the general was referring to the ceasefire, and earlier he had mentioned about Pakistan. For the viewers, it's very interesting to know that the ceasefire came only after Indian forces repeatedly responded to the Pakistani army violations of ceasefire. And there was a slight change in tactics. Earlier, whenever these ceasefire used to take place, it used to take place at localized lines. In the Indian army had changed its ploy about 2 years back. in which even if a ceasefire took place in one sector, which has, let's say, Baluch troops, everything, Indian army responded to those ceasefire violations in a sector which had more of the Punjabi troops. And that's when the body bag started going back to Punjab is when it really hurt Pakistan army, because as the general said, Pakistan as a country, forget the army, is largely Punjab based. It's controlled by the Punjabis out there. General, we have the Bilawal Bhutto Zardari was here. He came to Goa. He did really cut a very sorry figure as far as the foreign minister is concerned. India's external affairs minister S. Jaishankar really gave it back to him, and it was really hard. But in one of his interactions about the G20 meeting, he said कि हम एक जवाब देंगे जो सब सुनेंगे. Do you expect anything during this upcoming G20 meet, which is happening in Srinagar, sir?
So let me put it this way, that he's on Bilawal's visit also. And, if you see, he and his family have been known for theatricals. They are drama masters. Remember his Zulfikar Ali Bhutto going to United Nations Security Council and tearing those pages across there in 71 and says, we will not come into Security Council again. All the noisy theater. Bilawal's grandson made all the same kind of theater in India and said, hum jawab denge. Now, what jawab can they give? What jawab they can? You see, 370 has put the issue at rest globally. Nobody in the world now talks about 370 at all. This meet that is taking place in Srinagar is being attended by countries like Turkey. Turkey, which has always been speaking against on J&K issue, not in our favor. But they have also decided to join the meet in this time. So not exactly what happened, because security would be tight in this tourism meet that takes place in Srinagar. But suffice it to say that they would attempt to do something. It's not a question of jawab. And, we understand what jawab word means. We have to be careful as to what happens here, but it won't be for want of trying. So it's always possible that something can happen. And of course, we have to be vigilant. This is not a time to lose, to think that there is something goodness happening because there's a ceasefire at play. We found weapons in J&K which belong to the Americans left behind in Afghanistan. How did this weapon land up here? You see this blast that took place in Punj. You remember the other day, the blast. I mean, how do you get a steel-jacketed bullet here? Steel core bullets? These are American weapons. We don't use it in India. The Pakistan army doesn't use it. They are being dropped across in that manner brought across from Afghanistan. So to say that the Pakistan army can do something, certainly. Whether they, because this is an opportune moment to make a noise saying that because it's also our message to the global community that J&K is all right. There is a massive tourism taking place there, and there is a meet taking place. And you see, we are organizing things across here. And, you say it's a security state. It's not a security state in that form. So to cut that issue that we are raising across here to the world, it will be important for them to do something. So what you say and what you allude to, saying, can something happen at this time? Certainly, it will be that kind of jawab that Bilawal was talking about. And we need to be wary of the fact.
So, coming back to Pakistan, you have the new army chief. He's seen as someone who is very, in Hindi mein kehte hain ki bada kattar aadmi hai. And do you see divisions within the Pakistani military, or is this just social media buzz which is there?
So that's an interesting question. The issues here are that Pakistan, there was obviously divisions here. The story of General Faiz Nazeem.
Yeah.
And then, he finally put up his papers, resigned and went away in December last year. And the Chief of General Staff also resigned and went away. But the fact is that the present chief would have retired, 3-4 days after his retirement. He was resurrected and made into Chief of Army Staff. So he is beholden to this government for making him a chief. Rightly, if he had allowed him to go away, retired, nobody would have questioned it because he would have retired and gone away. But, frankly speaking, the government did a favor to him. So he is beholden to Shahbaz Sharif government for making him the chief. Now, is there dissensions? Well, you see, this statement, recently there was a talk by this present chief in Sialkot.
Yeah.
Last 2-3 days ago.
Yeah.
And Khalil Zad has actually tweeted quite a bit on this issue.
Yeah.
And he says that the language used by the chief to his own soldiers was exceedingly rough.
Yes.
He used bad language to his soldiers. I'll sort you out and sort out people out in case they do A, B, C, and D. There is an issue about, army is a microcosm of the society. The society of 70% is in favor of PTI. How it pans out in time, we'll see. Presently, they are in favor of PTI. And if that is so, then naturally the families, the lower ranks, the rank and file may be more amenable to Imran Khan than they are to the established families of Bhuttos and established families of Sharifs. So they found a new piece coming up here who has been in the cricket world, and 30-40 years he's been batting for Pakistan. So the
fact, Naya Pakistan, the change.
Sometimes he should define the word Naya and what is Naya that he did in his 3-4 years there. There's nothing Naya we can talk about. But the fact is that there is obviously, and he said in Sialkot, I will also not leave the families,
wife and
children in case they are anti-establishment. So there is a feel that the wives and children and families of the file are not with him. And I also give an example of what happened in Lahore. See, from Liberty Chalk, this crowd moved. There is some video being posted by some lady saying, don't go inside. But how did the gates open? Why did the Quick Reaction Force, they call it QRF, we call it QRT. The QRF didn't move ahead. How did the gates ran away? Okay, you see, the soldiers who are supposed to guard a cantonment, it's their life. To run away is a very foolish way of saying that melted. They just connived and allowed them to come in, I would say. Then they went across to the Corps Commander's house, which has got its own guard. They went inside, ransacked it, they picked up a peacock and went away. This is not normal. There is a connivance which smacks of it. This is a, Capitol Hill 6th of January moment of theirs. Yeah.
Exactly.
See, so the fact is that any hierarchical organization, and they had a Corps Commanders meet, would feel that people at lower rank would have connived with the crowds and allowed all this to happen. So to answer your question shortly, dissensions look like as evidence is what has happened here. So there is a probability that there is dissent here. Armies and all organizations do have dissent. To say a body of 7 lakh people, there won't be dissent. But the dissent reaching this level is something else altogether. And I think it has to be further watched and seen.
Absolutely. You are right on the spot that one will really have to wait and watch and study the developments that is taking place in Pakistan. But thank you so much, General, for speaking to The Print. The fact is that you made a very key point, and that point being the fact that India has to be careful because Pakistan could actually end up using India, the Pakistan army could end up using India as a binding factor and also to ease off the pressure from the Awam at large as far as Pakistan is concerned. Thank you so much, General, for speaking to The Print.
Thank you, Snehesh. Thank you for inviting me.